Good afternoon, everyone. As you can see, I'll be talking about converting your teaching materials to online instruction. So, as we all know, the first point of study, whether you're doing online or face to face classes, the first point of study for your learners is the content. In face to face setting, the content is delivered primarily through lectures, right? So we're familiar with it. Just like what I'm doing right now, I'm doing a lecture. But in online setting, there could be some variation in terms of the way the content is delivered. So I'll be giving you the range of options or a menu of the strategies that we can use to deliver our content online. So this presentation aims to discuss the different strategies and tools that can be used to migrate content or lessons from face-to-face to online delivery and discuss how online discussion forums can be applied to deepen learners' understanding of the lesson or content. So here's the outline of my presentation. I'll be discussing first the strategies for migrating content to online mode, which includes live streamed lectures, pre recorded lectures, online resources, specifically open educational resources, and the combination of those methods. Then I will be discussing discussion forums as a way to facilitate learner content interaction and also to engage the students. And I'll be providing you some useful links that you can use in relation to our topic today. And I'll give you a summary. After this presentation, I'll give you a sample of how the resources, of how the materials were uploaded in a Google Classroom. So the first approach that you can use is to do lectures live via video conferencing. So this is similar to a classroom, albeit in an online environment. The teacher can still deliver the same lecture, but this time it is done in front of a camera, just like what I'm doing right now. The setting is the same. I'm speaking before an audience live, but the audience are out there. They are watching me, the students or learners are watching me in front of their computer screens. Okay. Now, there are different technologies that you can use to live stream your lectures. You can have video conferencing applications like Google Hangout and Zoom, streaming apps like Facebook Live and YouTube Live, and also social media. You can also use Facebook, no, to deliver your live lecture. Here are some reminders on doing live stream lectures. First, you need to instruct your students on scheduling of live stream lectures. While the students are already aware of your schedule, even if you still follow the traditional schedule of your class, no? Kung MWF yung class mo, it's 8:30 to 10 or 10 to 11:30, you can still follow that old schedule in terms of doing your live lectures. But you need to inform them, reiterate this information to your students because they're still adjusting to this new mode of teaching and learning. So you have to assist them. As a contingency plan, you may also record your live stream lecture in case there's a technological breakdown, especially from the student's end. Most video conferencing apps like Zoom and Google Hangout have this record feature. You can also do the same for other streaming apps like FB Live and YouTube Live. And tutorials on how to make use of these are available all over the internet. Now, you don't need to distribute these recorded lectures unless it is needed. You can save them up for later use if in case there's a problem on the side of the students. And lastly, provide opportunities during the live lecture for Q&A. But just the same, please inform your students about this so that they can prepare their questions and any clarification or any other topics that they would like to raise in relation to your lecture. So this is an example of a set of instructions that you can give to your students. As you can see on the screen, the teacher here gave instruction on the schedule and scope of the virtual lectures, the role of the student before going to the virtual class, and how to access the virtual class. Now, in the absence of a virtual classroom like Google Classroom or Moodle, the teacher may use email or FB Messenger to send these instructions. Now, another way to deliver your content is through pre-recorded lectures. Now, you can start with your existing PowerPoint slides. I'm sure most of us have these slides that we use when we deliver our lectures in class. But it would be great, though, if you could add voice over narration in them. And narrated slides are easier to make and does not require large bandwidth for transmission. Now, you can find tutorials on how to put audio narration onto your PowerPoint slides on the internet. Now, you may also use screencast. A screencast is a digital video recording with your own voice over narration and which also captures actions taking place on your screen. This is very useful for demonstrating operating systems and website features. Now, you can also find instructions on how to do screencast in the internet. Or otherwise, you can simply video record yourself doing a lecture. You can also do board work, uh, doing solving problems using formulas by recording yourself and putting your camera just in front of you. As you know, the cameras that we have, mobile cameras that we have right now are quite advanced in feature, and you can make quality videos using your mobile phones. Now you can upload these recorded videos in a virtual classroom. Just like Google Classroom or in UP, we have the UVLE, which is a University Virtual Learning Environment. And it is also powered by Moodle. And sometimes I think a lot of teachers, especially in basic education, use Edmodo. You can also share them through file sharing apps like Google Drive or video sharing apps like YouTube and Vimeo, and also through social media like Facebook or email, or also by email. Just some pointers or tips on doing pre-recorded lectures or slides. I think we should not create overly long video presentations. You may cut up or divide your presentation into smaller parts like 5 to 10 minutes. So it's easier for students with slow internet connection to view them, and it's also more engaging on the part of the learners. Provide students with a list of video lecture or slide titles so that they can track the flow of the course and keep track of the materials. This is especially true if you're sharing your lectures just by email or social media and not virtual classroom. Once you have uploaded your recorded video lectures in your virtual classroom or shared them through the other apps, you need to give them instructions on what they have to do with them. For example, if it's a narrated slide, make sure you'll tell them that it's been provided with voiceover so that they would know what to expect. Now, another way to deliver your content online or through technology enhanced learning is through the use of online learning resources. Now, these learning resources can either be the print resources that you are using right now, just converted to their digital versions, or any other resource available on the web. For example, if you require a textbook in your class, that can be your student's primary source of lessons. Now, you can also use the handouts that you've been using in class, but just scan them and share them with your students. You can also utilize open educational resources or OERs that are available in the internet. OERs are freely accessible, openly licensed text, media, and other digital assets that can be used for teaching and learning. They can be in the form of websites, articles, papers, books, slides, podcasts, video, and other digital resources. Now, I just have to add that these online learning resources can either be used primarily as means to deliver content or in combination with live streamed lectures. Now, the best way to share these resources to your students is through a virtual classroom, just like what we've seen a while ago, because you are able to organize them according to units or topics, so students can easily track all the resources. Otherwise, you can share the links to the resources or the files of the resources in a site that your students can all go to. This site can either be a website like Google site or a blogging site like WordPress. Otherwise, you can also send them through email, social media, or a file sharing app like Google Drive. In these cases, you need to also send them a list of learning resources per unit or topic so students can follow the flow of the course. On the screen, you can see a sample list of online resources. So you have there the topic, Unit 1, Introduction to Management, and there are two types of categories of resources that were used. First, you have the files that you prepared yourself. It's a narrated slide on Introduction to Management, and that can be shared via email. And also, you have there the links of open educational resources or simply web resources that your students need to read so that they could learn the lessons required. No? So this list would guide the students in terms of the flow of the course as well as tracking the learning resources that they need to read or view. Here are some tips or reminders on using online resources. First, you have to choose the learning materials based on the target learning outcome. Do not include materials that do not contribute much to the learning aim. If a material is not necessary but only nice for your students to know, you may include it as part of the resources for optional use by the students. Select format of the digital resource according to learning task. For instance, a video is best suited for demonstrating a process or procedure or illustrating a physical reality, while text is more appropriate in explaining complex ideas. Use learning resources that are credible, accessible, and up to date. For a discussion on how to choose appropriate open educational resources, you can watch the video titled Digital Learning Resources and Open Educational Resources available at UPOU Networks. That's basically our web-based repository of online learning resources. Now, some would ask, should I be concerned with copyright, with intellectual property rights? If you're concerned, you may read on fair use policy. I will also provide links on fair use policy at the end of this presentation. Now, those are different strategies, but actually they can be combined. One option is to require all your students to attend the live streamed lectures and discussions and just use the online learning resources as additional reference materials for students to read in between the virtual classes. Or you can also deliver your content primarily using online resources and use video conferencing as a venue for class discussion, clarifying concepts, or discussing specific issues or applications related to the lessons. Now, regardless of the modes though, students must be instructed beforehand on how they should participate in all these activities. These would lessen their anxieties and also minimize questions from them. So we don't want to be bombarded with questions through email. So we might as well give them a clear set of guidelines. Now, we have already done our live lectures. We have already shared the online resources, which includes articles, papers, handouts, or videos. Now, how do we ensure that the students really grasp the ideas that we would like to impart through these resources? One way to do this is through the online discussion forums. Now, online discussion forums is a venue for students to discuss topics related to the course. It can be done in a virtual classroom or a social media group, no? Just like Facebook group. Now, online discussion forums are used to extract factual knowledge and information, query students' comprehension, enable learners to apply what they have learned, get learners to analyze information, challenge the students to synthesize the information, and have learners evaluate content and make judgment. So sometimes online discussion forum is compared to the face-to-face class recitation or class discussion. No? In a lot of ways, it's similar, but it's also different in the sense that you have to prepare the questions in advance, and students usually respond asynchronously through text. Now, online discussions can be formulated in different formats. For example, you can have analytical questions. On the screen, you can see the example. It says, given that you have what you have learned about the features of an information society, Can you say that information society or societies exist in the Philippines? Explain your answer by providing examples. Feel free to comment on your classmates' posts. So the question assumes that the students has already read the material or viewed the lecture on information society. Now, the students is now being asked to analyze whether such concept applies in the Philippines. In their answers, you can see whether they understood the concept or not. It could also be a debate. Is management an art or science? Explain your answer. From here, you can also see whether the students know the philosophy of management and how they view management as a practice and as a field of study. Or it could be a case discussion. For example, read the case, the prime movers in your reader. What can you say about the way Dr. Santos implemented the proposed organizational changes? What would you have done the same thing? Why or why not? So basically, the students is required to apply the concept that he has learned in a specific situation or context. In this case, an organization. Or it could be a Q&A or question and answer. So the students are asked to post their questions about the lesson and then you reply as a teacher. Now, this is very useful for courses that requires a lot of drills, exercises, and quizzes. So if they have problems with some of the aspects of the drills, you can discuss them in a Q&A discussion forum. Now, it's not enough that you post your question and the students reply. No? Just like in a class discussion, the teacher is there to facilitate the discussion. So you also have to be there in the online setting to facilitate it. And you can do that by asking questions that promote reflection, interpretation, analysis, or problem solving, solicit relevant personal opinion and or personal experience, encourage students to engage with other students in class, require connections to be drawn between lessons and personal experience, and past and present course material can be used. So based on my experience, students are really encouraged to participate in online discussions if they can relate to the question being asked, if it's applicable to their own context, to the problems they are undergoing, to the issues facing the environment or community they are a part of. And once they have posted their answers, uh, your students will then post their replies. To encourage dialogue among students, you can enrich the discussion by asking probing questions like the ones on the screen. No? Like if somebody has already posted and it's a bit unclear, you can ask them, what do you mean by such and such? You can ask about the initial issue. How can we find out about such and such or probe assumptions? So these are things that you can ask along the way. Now, at the end of the discussion forum, the teacher normally provides feedback to the learners by posting a summary of the main issues raised, points of convergences and divergences in learners' perspectives, and your perspective as a teacher on the discussion topic, which becomes your feedback to the learners. Uh, Sometimes we are not able to really pose a lot of probing questions during the duration of discussion forum, but students really expect you to come up with a sum up because they want to hear your take on the question that you actually posted. In fact, you can find more information about designing discussion forums in the video Designing Discussion Forum, also at the UPOU networks. So here is an example of a sum up or discussion note that I posted. You have there the question, uh, based on what you have read from your module and online reference material, what metaphor would you use to represent an organization you're familiar with? Explain. No? So the students have already posted their answers and they have reacted to each other's comments. So in this discussion forum, the teacher posted his sum up or discussion by first thanking those who participated in the discussion and second, highlighting the main points raised by the students in the discussion, and lastly, stating his take on the discussion question. So you have here some useful links that you can go to for a deeper discussion of the topics that we have just covered. Now, to summarize, we have learned that migrating your content or lessons to online instruction can be done through live stream lectures, pre recorded lectures, or voice over narrated slides, or the use of digital resources available in the web. Lectures can be live streamed through video conferencing applications like Zoom or Google Hangout, or streaming applications like Facebook Live or Google Live. Online resources can be uploaded in virtual classroom, and if not available, file sharing applications like Google Drive and social media like Facebook group. Now, these tools and strategies can be combined depending on the learning aim. And discussion forums can be used to deepen the learner's understanding of the content. Now, in all of these activities, the teachers need to provide clear instructions to learners on how to approach the learning resources or participate in any activity. So I think that ends my presentation on migrating your content for online delivery instruction. Thank you.